Hello, and thank you for joining us. I know it's really late in the day, but we're so happy to see all of your faces here. My name is Sharon Harris. I am the VP of Alliances at Deloitte, and I oversee our relationship with the Google Marketing Platform. And I am thrilled today to be joined by my partner and my technologist extraordinaire, Mr. Matt Major.
Hi, I'm Matt Major. I'm a global partner solutions lead on the Google Marketing Platform and the ads products.
So, today we're going to share with you how the Google Cloud Platform and the Google Marketing Platform are coming together. And this is really exciting, particularly for us marketers, because it's all about how can we leverage this technology. And today we're going to look at it through the lens of a marketer in the retail space. Retail is an industry that's really near and dear to my heart. And it's also an industry that's really experiencing a ton of change, a lot of disruption, and certainly it's under siege. You know, whether you're a brick and mortar store, whether you're online, a mom and pop shop, everyone is really engaged in a battle today when it comes to retail. Using retail as our focus, we're really going to showcase the power of marketing analytics on the Google Cloud Platform. And most importantly, what we now refer to as cloud for marketing. So let's get started. I have this slide for a couple of reasons. One, when you think about it, at least 40% of the businesses that we know today are going to die in the next 10 years. It's a very ominous slide. But I think it's really important because it articulates in a very clear way what's at stake. I do believe, however, it does provide an insight into what we're going to talk about today, in that there's still hope. While we've seen many of our beloved retailers fade away, whether it's Brookstone or Henry Bendel, or we've seen stores close like Payless or Gymboree or Victoria's Secret, there's still hope. One of my favorite retailers closed, Toys R Us. I was really sad to see Jeffrey pack his bags, make that last exit out of the store, because that was a fond part of my childhood. That was just an iconic brand for me. Everyone loved Toys R Us. But this quote really symbolizes this is where we are right now. And this is really a critical juncture. If you're in the audience and you're working for a retailer or you're a marketer, this is really a pivotal moment today. Now, I've spent over 20 years in the marketing space, a variety of different roles, and I can tell you firsthand, the job of a marketer is very difficult. You know, the average CMO, their tenure is, if they're lucky, 18 to 24 months if you're not showing results. And those challenges are continuing to evolve, and there are new concerns, but there are new opportunities at every turn. Top of the list of challenges is, how do you keep pace with the technological change? All of you are here at Google Cloud Next because you know what those next technological changes are looking like. And that's really important. And more marketers are starting to come to the table and understand how to leverage that change. But when you look at those top 5 challenges, we've got other things to think about. We've got to think about, how do we get the right talent in our organization? How do we create engaging digital content? How do we have the right skills in our business? And one of my favorites is, how do we measure the effectiveness of digital content? As a marketer, I can't manage what I can't measure, and that's really critical. And that's where, once again, the technology can truly help me. You know, I was really sad to see Sears file bankruptcy. Sears, the original superstore, the precursor, if you will, to the Amazon. Sears, an iconic American brand. Everything you wanted, from batteries to dresses to Kenmore appliances to tires, everything.
Houses.
Houses too. Everything under one roof. Garanimals, chubby kid clothes, everything you could possibly need under one umbrella. That was the destination for the family on the weekends. If your family was like mine, Sears, we got the tires rotated, got a new battery, picked up some clothes, some fabric even, everything under that single store. I was really sad to see them say farewell because it seemed to be the end of a major era in our country. But I say this because I do believe that there is still hope. And today, Matt and I are going to share with you some things that we believe will help you to avoid some of the pitfalls many of these other retailers have experienced. Now, it goes without saying, a key issue for a marketer today is trust. Consumer trust is paramount. We've all heard the horror stories of data breaches. You know, the demise of many retailers, a lot of it's around they didn't leverage their data. And we all know, everyone in this room knows, we talk about data constantly. Data is the #1 strategic priority of marketers, and especially retailers. Data is that new currency. It's the new oil. It's the lifeblood of the organization. And if you don't really have a handle on it, you're not going to be successful in this current landscape. Now, in advertising, we often say, you know, not curing cancer, I'm not making the world safe for mankind, we're just making ads. Unlike physicians, you know, marketers, we don't take an oath. But today, I want us to take an oath. As a marketer, the oath I want you to take is really critical, and it goes like this. As a marketer, I vow to know my customer, be my customer, and empathize with my customer. Those are the critical things you must do as a marketer. But of course, you might be asking yourself, where do I begin? I've got lots of data, lots of siloed data. I've got different organizations, different stakeholders. I've got the finance person breathing down my neck going, what are you spending all that marketing money on? You've got lots of challenges that you're facing. So where do you begin? The technology.
And traditionally for marketers using Google, that technology has been the Google Marketing Platform. That's been the place where marketers have gone to do the work of knowing their customers and empathizing with them better, but they haven't always been called that. So who here has used one of these products before? Lots of hands.
Raise them high, raise them high.
Analytics, DBM, now DV360, yes. Keep your hands up if you have used more than one of these products. Great. So you know already, and most of you here have seen or sit next to someone who does, know that these products have been loved and used for years, even though they haven't been called the Google Marketing Platform together. Marketing analytics products can already share touch points and behaviors in a privacy-positive way, allowing brands to drive the relevance that makes ads useful and build the relationships that users need to ensure that the brands stay top of mind. The unified Google Marketing Platform is comprised of 4 products along media buying, ad serving, and creative management, and 4 analytics products on tag management, site analytics, data visualization, and web page optimization. This is the legacy Analytics 360 suite and the DoubleClick platform. Together, these products make up the Google Marketing Platform, which is a really great place to start to know and empathize with your customers. But the Google Marketing Platform is really only part of the picture. I mean, we're not at GML. If we take the ads data and the marketing data alone, we can only do so much. And for those of you who are marketers, you're probably doing as much as you already can. What we need to do is we need to use the data that's available to do more interesting things, more in-depth things, to know and to communicate better with our customers. Think about the business challenges you could solve if you added your point-of-sale data to your ad behavior. Think about the questions that your business is asking you that you could answer if you just had the CRM data next to the ads impressions. How much more can you know and empathize with your customer if you just have more data connected? We're now at a point where CRM and offline data like point of sale are in places where they can be leveraged faster. Together with ads and marketing data, they can really help tell both sides of the business more things and help them know and empathize with your customers better. The MarTech and the ad tech side obviously will get a lot from this, but in time, the production and supply chain side will too. So Cloud and Google Marketing Platform together make it possible to build better, more impactful campaigns and add vital data to your CRM. This enables a better personalization strategy, keeping users engaged and connected. And that ensures that your data is in a private, secure place and is more thorough. And of course, I think it's great. I work at Google. But Sharon, from your perspective, why should marketers care about Google Marketing Platform and Google Cloud together?
Well, Matt, it's super simple, and it's simple for everyone in this audience, and we started with the why. 40% of all businesses will die in 10 years. The stakes are high. So when you think about the Google Cloud, think about an open and secure environment. When it comes to privacy and safety of consumer data, you can't afford anything less. And if you want to put your business at risk because you've chosen a platform that isn't open, secure, and safe, good luck. Know the customer. We took the oath. Know the customer. Be the customer. Empathize with the customer. Collecting and storing data in the cloud allows for faster analysis, which really drives your decision-making process. Remember, you have hard dollars, real investments on the line. If you're not making the right decisions and choices, they can have catastrophic consequences for your business today. Every second is precious in this marketplace. Third, machine learning. Machine learning gives you the ability to solve very complex problems. And ML is already a component of the Google Cloud Platform. So you can easily leverage it to advance your marketing capabilities. And as a marketer today, you really want to be truly data-driven. So leverage ML.
So what does that look like? For those of you who like to look at architecture and are pulling their phones up now to take pictures of it, you've probably seen slides like this already. We can bring in data from the Google Marketing Platform technologies like Google Analytics 360, Display and Video 360, and Google Ads like YouTube and AdWords data. This can all be stored in BigQuery storage, and with BigQuery Compute, you can use Cloud Data Lab and Cloud ML to run SQL queries and also to create clusters for advanced segmentation. In terms of visualization, I think it's really important to note that all of us don't look at tabular data all the time. It's really important that for those who are making decisions who aren't going to be actually building out the data sets, that they understand what's actually happening. So building out a visual layer is really important.
Make it easy. Make it easy for the marketer. You know, I already have a hard job. I got 18 to 24 months to show some results. Help me make the data work for me. That's really the key to visualization. So I'm happy you're doing that for me.
Right. And Data Studio is awesome, but some people like to use Looker or Tableau. Great tools. And so the Google Cloud Platform allows you to create visuals using any tool that you'd like. For those of us on the Google Marketing Platform side, once you've built out the clusters that you're interested in using, you can push those in through what's called data import into Google Analytics 360 to run ads on Display and Video 360 or across the Google Ads products like YouTube or Search. It's a really great way to very easily leverage what you've already got and do things that you can't do inside the user interfaces of those products. So on a high level, a really easy example of what we're doing together with Deloitte today looks like this. We start with BigQuery. We use the most awesome, easy-to-use, simple, tons of connections BigQuery to take all of the data sources that we have and put them together. We add in the Display and Video 360 data using data transfer files, as well as Google Ads data from YouTube and AdWords. And also, there's a native BigQuery export from Google Analytics 360 that allows you to put that into BigQuery as well. Now, for the client that we have that we're already doing this with, they've got some data from point of sales, transaction, and customer databases that they wanted to add in. So we use data prep to structure that in a way that can sit alongside the ads data. Mm-hmm. And then here's where the magic happens. Yes, you're pulling up your phones again. That's great. We get two things out of this. Once that data is structured and put in a way that we can use it, you can get more analysis and activation out of it. And now for analysis, it's important to note that you can pass the audiences back into the tools for measurement and visualization. You can also just pull that into a visualization tool itself. And then for activation, within the Google Ads products like DV360 and ads for YouTube and search, it's possible to actually activate across segments that you've built that have both the display video 360 data, the Google Ads data, and also the behavioral data from your site. Again, this is a very basic example, even without getting into machine learning or the AI part.
Now I'll show them the real magic.
Okay. So this is what people really think that they need when they first start, right? It needs to be super complex, it needs to solve all my problems, it needs to solve all of my challenges, and every single stakeholder from the CEO down to every single coder needs to be in agreement before we can do this. This is something that Deloitte has already suggested to some clients, and I think that we're going to be building it out, but it takes a long time to get the stakeholders wrangled together. Empathy is really complicated, is what this says.
Very complicated. So remember that. Empathy is very, very complicated.
But you really can't start with this as a goal. This is too big to sell into all the stakeholders necessary. So we've always suggested that you start with something simple, high value, and scalable. That way teams can buy in on making the project and the scope bigger and more complex over time. If you start with that first slide, you're going to scare off a lot of people. And we don't have time to scare people off. We need to bring them in.
And as a data-driven marketer, you must prove value with clear goals. And you have to have quick wins. Once again, you're really up against the clock. So you want to make sure that what you're delivering is going to really work. So the construct of test and learn is key to help you close those gaps. Now, we're going to take a look at some examples of very, very straightforward retail client use cases. And as a marketer, there are some frequent business problems that you're trying to solve. And we're always focused, once again, what? Know the customer, be the customer, empathize with the customer. So these 5 are the highest historical spenders in your business. Those online-only shoppers, you got to love those folks. Heavy browsers that don't log in, so you're not getting any authenticated data. Heavy couponers. How many people love coupons? Show of hands, that's it? Nobody likes to save money? Come on, get on the coupon bandwagon. My favorite is loyal customers that buy in-store and online. I have to raise my hand really high for that one because that is me all day, every day. You too? I knew it. I knew it. So as we think about these use cases, these are really core to the retail space. And as we go through this, we're going to really focus on 2. And the first, which is really a foundational use case. This is all about how do you unlock the data that you have so that you can start to control it. You can start to leverage it. You can start to really use it in your business. This is a critical step in the journey. You really can't go forward unless you have this foundation built. And this is all about building an advanced data infrastructure for media insights. As a marketer, you're always asked, am I getting the value out of my media spend that I should? Am I reaching the right audience? Am I reaching them at the right frequency? Is it with the right message? Who knows? And sometimes you really can't ask your agency. So what can you do to really understand the performance of it? So Matt, tell us, what do we do?
Well, I can tell you what you've done. Deloitte has done this for marketing already using data transfer files from Display and Video 360. They're using BigQuery and R and data visualizations and business intelligence tools to derive detailed media analytics. So what they've done is they've taken those data transfer files and they've done with them more granular insights than you can get from the user interfaces of those tools alone. And then looking at that granular data, they have the ability to more accurately look at media metrics, including reach and frequency. This seems like a base case because it is. Again, we wanted to start with something simple, scalable, and of high value, because this provides the infrastructure to deliver advanced media insights. So again, we're suggesting for you to start with something simple and foundational.
Prove your case.
Right.
Bring people over. That's really critical.
And so the value that is derived from doing this, as you're traveling from the left side to the right side, data comes in and it's unstructured. Or it's structured but not in a way that's congruous with the rest of the data that you have. And as we provide more and more structure and more details emerge, we can start to get more and more insights. So things like understanding cross-campaign conversion and user overlap is kind of basic. But as you get a quick win, you get more teams bought into it, and then you can start doing more advanced things like trending and analytics and visualizations off of what you've already built, and then starting to get into predictive analytics, customer lifetime value, churn, propensity, et cetera. And then you get to start doing activation at scale. I mean, the true goal here is to be able to do things quickly, scalably, and automated if you can. Again, this is the base case for really anything, including our second use case,
which is all about data-driven segmentation. Now, when you think of data-driven segmentation, as a marketer, yes, you want to know your customer, but you need to know, is this a loyal customer? Is this a new customer? You want to understand, can I discover new customers? Because that's ultimately the real prize. And when we segment and categorize customers, that really drives our decision-making process. And it ultimately leads to greater efficiencies, which give you stronger returns. So Matt, once again, how are we going to pull this off?
So if you remember that old slide, collect, cluster, visualize, and activate. It's almost the same story. But what we can do is we can take that point of sale data along with site analytics and CRM data and run machine learning clusters on it to find meaningful behavioral insights. So identifying user attributes of each cluster that when users show up and behave in certain ways, that we can then put them quickly into a segment that might be able to be activated or at least be visualized so we can start looking at trends. And then finally, activating those clusters when possible for media buying on Display and Video 360, Google Ads, or other media channels. So let's look at an example of how we might apply that to an actual user situation. And because it was just her birthday, we've named my hypothetical user on my mom, Audrey.
Unfortunately, we couldn't bring Audrey with us today, but she's here with us in spirit, cheering her beautiful son, Matt, on.
It would be a much longer session if she was here. Anyway, so we're going to say that Audrey just went online and went to an electronics retailer and bought a camera. Now, she might shop at that electronics retailer online pretty often, so we might have some CRM data about her. And we have the GA360 purchase data and maybe some behavioral data. So we have some insights already. Now, with Display and Video 360 or with other activation channels, we could do things like sending her ads for the accessories that she might need for that camera, or suggesting that she bundle together memory cards. But that's kind of all we can do. I'd say things related to exactly what you're doing right now. But if we're adding things like machine learning tools across our entire CRM and across all of the behavioral insights that we can pull, we can cluster Audrey, or my mom, into a group of people who are frequent travelers. So we start getting insights about people who have bought cameras but have also bought things like international chargers or lots of different cords for things because they lose them. And we know that people who are frequent travelers don't just buy cameras, they also buy noise-canceling headphones. Who has noise-canceling headphones who travels a lot? Yeah, exactly. That kid in the fourth row. You know who I'm talking about. Anyway, so the reason that that's important is because then we can start segmenting out users who've done some of the things that we're interested in, but not all of them. So we take this user, Audrey, we start to cluster users like her that have done things like bought a camera, are identified as a frequent traveler, but haven't bought those headphones. And then we can tailor ads to those people specifically, like showing them ads specific to, you're a frequent traveler, Audrey. We know you bought this camera, and here's some headphones you might want too. Audrey sees an ad. She has a higher likelihood of buying those headphones before her next trip.
Or if, you're a really good son, Mother's Day is approaching, sounds like a good gift for mom.
I want her to hear when I call. So today we've walked through architecture and examples of two really important use cases to bring together Google Cloud and Google Marketing Platforms to help you know and empathize with the people who matter to you most, your customers. The Better Together story is about doing that at the pace of change of the industry, your business, and the people who are buying you and keeping you alive.
Without a doubt. You know, we hope the information that we shared today from the perspective of a marketer and retail, and of course the technologists, have somehow been enlightening to you. You know, I absolutely love technology, but what I love more is what a technology allows me to do. I like it to be actually seamless and in the background because I want to be the person in control. And for marketers, and especially retailers, Google Cloud gives you that speed and privacy and security to do what? Know your customer, be your customer, empathize with your customer. Secondly, predict marketing outcomes. You want to know where the puck is going. You don't want to be where it is. You want to be ahead of those trends. And as a retailer and a marketer, whatever your product is, you need to have that ability. So you can harness the technology to help you do that. And then thirdly, personalized experiences. Consumers are demanding more and more personalizations. We want ads, products, and experiences that are relevant to us, that speak to us. That's really critical. So if you don't take anything away from what we've talked about today, take away these three things when you think about the Google Cloud. Know your customer, predict those marketing outcomes, and personalize those experiences on a platform that gives you greater speed, privacy, and security. Now, we've empowered all of you with this great information so you can be change agents in your organization. And that's not a difficult task. Change is always hard. But it all begins with something very simple. It's called the conversation. You know, it's always like when your significant other says, you know, we need to talk. Let's have a talk or a conversation. Those things can be challenging. But for an organization, the biggest hurdle is really around shifting mindset. Evolving the culture of the organization can sometimes be your number one obstacle. You know, having those conversations early and often is really key because you've really got to work to break down the silos in marketing, in technology, in sales, in operations, in finance, because ultimately every single aspect of the business is made better when you come together.
And if you don't, it's kind of clear what's going to happen.
Exactly. But there is hope. You know, if we think about the brands like the Sears and the Toys R Us's of the world, what they could have done with their data. You know, had they used these kinds of technologies, or if they had been available to them, we may not have to say goodbye to Jeffrey. You know, think about it. Those are real consequences of when you're not leveraging the technology.
And the other thing that goes kind of without saying is that we need partners and marketers and Google and other ecosystem players involved to get this done. We need especially strong partners to be able to help marketers through these challenges, both with the communication part of it and the delivery itself. I mean, that slide, the really complicated one, very few marketers can do that by themselves. Some can, but very few can do it. So we need partners that are really enabled and able to do this. And I want to say thank you to you, Sharon, for being such a great partner.
And thank you to Matt for being my technologist extraordinaire at Google. But, you know, we hope you've enjoyed this presentation. We knew it was the end of the day, so we weren't going to keep you the entire 50-plus minutes. We're standing probably between food, cocktails, music, what have you. But we hoped you found this valuable, and we're happy to take your questions. And, you know, both Deloitte and Google are here to help, but before you exit, we do have something to ask of you, your feedback. Complete the survey session in the mobile app. And of course, as Matt shamelessly says, 5 stars is always better than 1. But we would love to hear from you. So if anyone's got any questions.
Yep, there are a couple of microphones here, and I know that we don't have anything on the door right now. Thank you so much for your time today.
I got a question.
Yep.
Just curious about what type of tools you guys provide to enable marketers to run experiments.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What kind of tools do you have to enable marketing team to run experiments? Right? To understand the customers, you need to run experiments, right?
So there are a couple of different kind of experiments that you might be talking about, and some are on the website. So if it's a web experiment, there's Optimize 360. There's a free version of Optimize as well. You can take a look at that. That can actually, if you're using the Google Analytics 360 product, you can take audiences directly from Google Analytics and push those into Optimize 360 for tests. It's a really great product. It's not as used as some of the other GA 360 suite products, but it's really excellent. And I suggest you try it. In terms of other testing scenarios, there are some within the ads products, and you'd have to ask someone within cloud who can give you more.
Just follow up on that. Do you have any optimization tools across channels? Not just the optimizer for website, for apps. Do you have some sort of cross-channel optimization tools? That's basically what I'm asking for.
So currently, I'm not aware of a cross-channel optimization tool. There were some technologies within the Attribution 360 tool originally that were slated to do that, but that is not currently an available product.
I had one question. This is a general question, and I wondered if you could talk a bit about how you think privacy and the interests of customers in terms of having more privacy or maybe control of their data, and how that might affect the marketing ecosystem.
Oh, sure. I mean, you know, data is definitely, and privacy is a hot topic. I think first and foremost, as a marketer, you need to understand consent. Consumer consent is everything. So if you're collecting data, and it's important to have your own first-party data, make sure you have the right consents. That's going to be key. And then, once again, it needs to be first-party data. You know, we talk a lot about data breaches, and a lot of that stems from the fact that many marketers and many brands don't really own their own data. They've got their data siloed, it's across different platforms, they've got different agencies in there, so they don't really have great visibility nor transparency into what's happening. But there are a couple of things that I really stress to people today. Pay attention to the regulations. We already have GDPR in Europe. We have CCPA, or the California Consumer Protection Act, that's about to be ratified here. Those are really going to be game changers for how you think about the collection and storage of data. So first-party data is really critical. And because if you don't have it, the penalties for those data breaches are not just the loss of your customers, but also some pretty hefty fines.
Thank you very much for the speech. As far as we know, user ID is unavailable on data transfer files from DoubleClick. So
That's correct.
Yep. So did you make this case before those limitations comes?
Nope. So thank you. For those of you who are not aware, data transfer files, as we've described, from the Display and Video 360 product and Campaign Manager product do not include user ID, so the full cookie stream information. However, that information can be used not necessarily joined directly to the GA360 data, but also things like timestamping or other predictive cases can allow you to still get insights from them. There is also an additional product set that could potentially solve some problems or questions about data transfer files that are missing user ID fields, and that's something that you should talk to your Google team about.
One more there in the back.
One more? Oh, hi, Jack.
Hi, Matt. Matt and Sharon, thanks very much, first of all, for sharing all this. Very helpful. Really appreciate the fact that this might be one of the first examples I've seen where Google Cloud Platform is being illustrated as an integral part of the solution that the Google Marketing Platform can deliver. So congratulations on the One Google theme here. It's also affirming to show that disparate data can be consolidated to create better audiences. My question is, will we be seeing more of that? Will we be seeing more of One Google, where the Google Cloud Platform becomes a foundation for the great work that you guys do on the GMP side?
I think it's pretty safe to say that, yes, we'll be seeing more of that. What that will look like from day to day, quarter to quarter, year to year may change, but I think everyone on both the clouds and the GMP side know that we need each other to be able to answer the fundamental questions and challenges that marketers have today.
Good. Looking forward to seeing it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming today. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your cloud next.